The terraforming groups didn't want me pummeling planets or moons. Mining companies were fine with me hitting ice comets, but wouldn't hear a word about hitting their precious metals. Backline artillery. At least you were safe and slept in your own bed the whole time, Marcus said. Ray laughed. My own bed? They strung me out on amphetamines and had me running cargo to launch craft whenever the cannons were cooling off between shots. I didn't get a wink of sleep, and they thought it was all good because they catered food to the base. Marcus burst out laughing. Sounds about right. Still, I would have preferred your job to mine. What about you? You were there, right? Were you defending the Starshoot?
So I originally conceptualized this YouTube channel as more of a writing advice channel rather than necessarily a book review channel, although that is most of what the videos are so far. I'm going to try something a little bit different here, though. So this video is going to be the first in possibly a series that is tentatively titled Why I Stopped Reading Your Self-Published Novel and What to Do Better Next Time. And I really want to focus more on the how can we be better writers than just like, should you read this book or not? Now, warning, I don't know who this is a warning for other than literally the author personally, but I'm going to be hard on some self-published books in this video and at least one upcoming video. And that feels a little bad because I don't want to punch down, right? Not that I'm even above that, right? I have one novel. It is self-published, admittedly so. But I do think that, you know, there are a lot of self-published books that are not ready for publication. And this isn't even necessarily one of them. You'll hear me say a lot of good things about this book, and they are honest to goodness, true good things about it. But there's also parts that are not working, and that's kind of what I want to focus on in this video. Ship of Fools by James Craik. Now this is a, I believe, self-published novel. It's not always obvious and easy to tell, but it's certainly a very small, it has a small audience, right? I'm Twitter mutual friends with this guy is how I discovered his book. It's a military science fiction novel. The writing is clean, easy to read, good blend of action, dialogue, description, and emotion. The world building is excellent. Economics drive the organization of infrastructure and human settlements. The faster-than-light mechanism is well thought out, efficiently introduced in few words without bogging down the story in information dumps. The backstory of the prospective character and his universe is deep. There's a meaningful galactic war, and the communication limits, like faster-than-light limitations. I haven't seen better consideration of faster-than-light communication outside of, again, The Expanse or Joe Haldeman's The Forever War, which definitely seems like it was an influence on this author and this book in particular. The premise is solid, with an early inciting incident putting a capable character in a situation that he's unsuited to dealing with. So why is this story not working? Motivation. The main character doesn't care about anything. He's a jaded old combat veteran, which is fine. That's a common character archetype. But one of the first things most writers do with that archetype is embroil said character in a situation that makes them care or that threatens something that they didn't realize they actually do care about. Takeshi Kovacs in Altered Carbon is the exact same archetype. It starts out where he has been reborn, for lack of a better word, into this world, and he's lost everything. And again, he's a grizzled old combat veteran. He does not care about the problems of this world.
I don't care about anyone. That make you a killer. More times than I can count.
But what immediately happens is other characters try to entrap him and get him emotionally invested in their schemes by bringing up things he cares about. And it works. Kovacs doesn't remain aloof and uncaring, at least not for long anyway. Unfortunately, the main character of Ship of Fools, Marcus, doesn't care, and it takes too long for him to care about something. This comes from about 35% way through the book. I read it on a Kindle, and the quote from the book is, "This was the first real choice I had, and I chose to act." Okay, positive points, he chooses to act. That's good. You need a character that takes some action, right? But this is 35% of the way through the story, and it's the first real choice I had, is the character saying that from his own perspective. And I, the reader, agree. way too late for that to happen. And it's kind of undermined a little bit later, 38% of the way through the book. Quote, "The only thing I can do is wait. Again." Not good enough. I lost interest at that point. That was where I stopped, 38%. Maybe right after that, it becomes absolutely amazing and all the action breaks loose. Too late for me as a reader. And it's really a shame because this book, this story is otherwise firing on all cylinders. It is probably still worth a read. If you're interested at all in supporting good, solid, self-published science fiction, you're interested in military sci-fi as a genre, then this is certainly the best self-published military sci-fi I've ever read, and it is not the only. The icing is really tasty on this book, right? But you gotta have some really nice cake underneath. And for me, the cake is personal stakes for the character, his motivation. Why does it matter to Marcus? So what do we as writers do to fix this issue, to make the stakes personal? It doesn't matter if the galaxy is going to be ruled by evil if it's not personal, unless the Galactic Empire killed your adopted parents. This, I think, is a good example of what personal stakes look like. And I know it's a movie and not a book, but I'm going to talk about how to do it in the writing as well. So here's the clip for what personal stakes look like.
Doc, sorry to be in bed. What the hell are you doing this for anyway?
Wide Up is my friend.
Yeah, well, I got lots of friends.
I don't.
So how do you make that happen in writing? It's not enough to just say what matters to the character, although the clip obviously does that. So I think the first thing you really need is that the reader needs to feel the impact of loss or potential loss in the body of the character. I really like when writers have your character, he aches and he cringes and he winces and he has squirmy guts and he has pain in his body and he blushes with heat in his face, or gets that hot neck from embarrassment, or other emotions. Like, I want to feel temperature. I want to feel physicality in the emotions. I really like that. That's probably not the most important thing, but that's one of the items on my list. It's something that I like to do in my writing, and frankly, I think I do pretty well. Number two, the reader needs to witness the importance of the stakes through the actions and decisions of the character as they strive for the desired outcome against the feared outcome. Characters got to do stuff to get what they want, and they have to have something that they want. I mean, that's item 0. That comes before item 1. All right, number 3. The reader needs to learn through backstory of the character what's their past pain or joy that has made this person care about what it is that they care about. What has made the stakes matter to them in a way that would be different from somebody else who these same issues might not matter to. Now that's it. Those are my 3 items. And I think that Doc Holliday in the Tombstone clip manifests all 3 of those in no particular order. Action. The one character, says you should be in bed, and he's coughing, but he's out there. He's gonna fight for Wyatt Earp. Choosing to fight for Wyatt Earp, that is the main action, and it's a powerful one. Backstory, and compare and contrast at the same time. He doesn't have a lot of friends. All right. And it's not deep backstory, but it's something. And lastly, the thing that I initially put first, the physicality. Now, in a movie, the physicality is all the acting, and Val Kilmer is killing it here. But in writing, just tell us how this person feels. What is it like to inhabit their body, right? That can be a very powerful technique as well. So I would love to know, write a comment if you think there's other ways to communicate the importance of personal stakes. I want to wrap up by saying writing is hard. And if you're missing one element in your writing, it's often very obvious. So when people point at popular books and say, that's trash, what they're really saying is, that book doesn't have the particular flair that I like in my storytelling. But go fucking read Twilight. Go read the Da Vinci Code or the Jack Reacher novels. Any of these things that gets labeled as garbage, right? And I think you will find some fundamentals of gripping storytelling. And I think that is got to be the core. Writers often, I think, get distracted by using pretty words, by writing rules, when writing rules are often very helpful, but like if it's not the flair that you're adding on top of, again, that really tasty, solid, good foundation of cake, then it does not matter. Some of the books that I mentioned, those crappy popular books, a lot of them have nonsensical world building. Absolutely no interesting metaphors or pretty phrases. Some of them are just like enormously dialogue heavy. But at the same time, a good story is not built on interesting metaphors. Conflict and choice are fundamental. Making consequences personal is also fundamental. So hopefully I provided some good tips. I do not mean to crap on Ship of Fools in particular, or self-published in general, but I wanted to use it as an example in this particular case of one aspect, when every single other aspect was working for me, why the book did not work, and how I think it could be better. All right, so thank you. I hope this was helpful to you as a writer, and you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Bye, folks.